Princess Zaretha stood on the highest balcony of the Crystal Palace. She looked out at the city below. The tall, shining towers of Veltar Prime stretched as far as she could see. Her people, the Veltar, had built this beautiful world over thousands of years. They were smart, elegant, and powerful. At least, that was what she had always believed. Today, everything felt different. The princess wore a flowing dress made of silver fabric that changed colors in the light. Her skin was pale blue and her eyes were large and purple. Like all Veltar, she was tall and thin. Her father always told her that her people were the most advanced race in the galaxy. They had the best technology, the strongest minds, and the most beautiful cities. But now, their empire was falling apart. The door behind her opened with a soft sound. Emperor Kelvar walked onto the balcony. He was her father, and he ruled the greatest empire in the galaxy. But today, he looked old and tired. His shoulders bent forward like he was carrying a heavy weight. "Daughter," he said in their musical language, "we need to talk." Zaretha turned to face him. She could see worry in his purple eyes. "What is wrong, father? Is it the hive again?" The hive was their enemy. They were insect-like creatures that traveled from planet to planet. They ate everything and everyone they found. For 3 years, they had been attacking Veltar worlds. Each battle, the Empire lost more ships and more soldiers. "Yes," her father said. "The hive destroyed our fleet at Kepler 7 yesterday. Admiral Thelkos is dead. So are 50,000 of our best warriors." Zaretha felt cold. "How many ships do we have left?" "Not enough." The Emperor walked to the edge of the balcony. "Our generals say we can hold them back for maybe 6 months. Then they will reach our core worlds. After that," he did not finish the sentence. "There must be something we can do," Zaretha said. "Our weapons are the best in the galaxy. Our soldiers are trained from birth. Our ships are faster than anything else in space." Her father was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was very soft. "I have made an agreement, an alliance. It is our only chance." "With who?" "The Zephyrians? The Crystal Lords?" "With the humans." Zaretha felt shock run through her body. "The humans, father, they are primitives. They fight with metal bullets and crude explosives. They live on a death world and refuse genetic improvements. They are barely above animals." "They have agreed to help us fight the hive," her father said. "Their leaders will send their best warriors and their strongest ships. In return..." "In return what?" The Emperor could not look at his daughter. "In return, you will marry their champion, a warrior called Marcus Kane." "No." Zaretha stepped back like her father had hit her. "Father, you cannot mean this. I am a princess of the Veltar Empire. I cannot marry some savage from a primitive world." "It is already decided," her father said. "He arrives tomorrow for the ceremony." "I will not do this." Zaretha's voice became high and angry. "These humans are disgusting. They smell bad, and they are violent. They have no culture, no art, no science worth talking about. How can you ask me to marry one of them?" "Because they win battles," her father said quietly. "Every time they fight the hive, they win. No one else can say that. Not us. Not the Zephyrians. Not anyone else. Only the humans." "That is impossible. How can primitives beat the hive when we cannot?" "I do not know," the Emperor said. "But they do. Their general sent me recordings of their battles. I have watched them fight. It is different from what we expected." Zaretha did not want to hear this. All her life, she had been taught that humans were the lowest form of intelligent life. They were too stupid for proper technology. They were too savage for civilization. They were too weak for genetic improvement. How could they be better warriors than the mighty Veltar? "This Marcus Kane," she said with disgust in her voice. "What is he like?" "He is their best general. He has won every battle he has fought. He is respected by all human military forces, and he is unmarried." "Is he at least civilized? Can he speak our language? Does he understand proper behavior?" Her father was quiet again. "You will meet him tomorrow. You can judge for yourself." That night, Zaretha could not sleep. She walked around her room, thinking about her terrible future. She would have to marry a savage from a death world. She would have to live with someone who probably ate raw meat and fought with his hands. She imagined him as big and ugly, with small eyes and a face like a wild beast. She had seen pictures of humans before. They were short and thick, with dark skin and too much hair. They had small brains and violent tempers. They could not create beautiful art or understand complex science. They were everything that the Veltar were not. The next morning came too soon. Zaritha, dressed in her finest clothes. If she had to meet this barbarian, she would show him what a real civilization looked like. She wore a dress that sparkled like stars and jewelry made from rare crystals. Her hair was arranged in the complex style of royal ceremony. She stood in the great throne room with her father. Hundreds of Veltar nobles filled the hall. They all wanted to see the human who would marry their princess. The big doors opened. A group of humans walked into the room. Zaritha saw them and felt sick. They wore simple uniforms instead of beautiful clothes. Their skin was dark from their harsh sun. They looked around the throne room like soldiers, not like guests at a royal ceremony. One human walked in front of the others. He was tall for his species, but still shorter than any Veltar. His hair was dark and cut very short. His face was marked with thin scars. His hands looked strong and rough. When he moved, it was like watching a predator hunt. This was Marcus Kane. This was the savage she would have to marry. Not him, father, Zaritha whispered. She could not stop herself from stepping backward. The sight of the human warrior made her skin crawl. Please, not him! But her father had already stepped forward to greet their new allies. The future of the Empire depended on this alliance, and Zaritha's future depended on marrying a man who looked like everything she had been taught to fear. The ceremony had begun. 3 days after the wedding ceremony, Zaritha sat in her private cabin on the royal ship. She stared out the window at the stars rushing past. They were traveling to the border worlds where the human and Veltar fleets would join together. She would have to spend 2 weeks on this ship with her new husband. She had barely spoken to Marcus Kane since the wedding. During the ceremony, he had said the required words in perfect Veltar language. His pronunciation was actually quite good, which surprised her. But he looked so strange in the ceremonial robes. His broad shoulders and thick arms made the elegant Veltar clothing look wrong. After the ceremony, there had been a feast. Marcus sat beside her at the high table, but he mostly stayed quiet. He ate the food without complaining, even though Zaritha knew it must taste strange to him. He answered questions from Veltar nobles with short, polite responses. He did not try to impress anyone or talk about his battles. This confused Zaritha. She had expected him to boast about his victories. Primitive warriors always bragged about their strength, did they not? She had expected him to be loud and rude. Instead, he seemed almost calm. A soft knock came at her cabin door. "Come in," she called. To her surprise, Marcus Kane entered. He wore a simple human uniform instead of Veltar robes. "Princess," he said with a small bow, "I wanted to discuss our arrival at the fleet base." Discuss? Zaritha remained seated. She did not invite him to sit down. "What is there to discuss? You will command your primitive ships, and I will observe." "Actually," Marcus said, "your father wants both of us to inspect the combined forces together. The Veltar officers need to see that this alliance is real." Zaritha looked at him carefully. His face showed no emotion. His voice was polite but not friendly. "Very well, but do not expect me to pretend enthusiasm for this arrangement." "I do not expect anything from you," Marcus said. "This marriage is a military alliance, nothing more. We both have duties to perform." His words stung, though Zaritha could not say why. "Good. At least we understand each other." Marcus nodded and left the cabin. Zaritha sat alone, feeling strange. She had wanted him to know that she did not care about this marriage, but somehow his easy agreement made her feel empty. Over the next few days, Zaritha watched Marcus from a distance. He spent time with his human officers, planning and studying star maps. He read reports about Veltar military tactics. He even learned the names of the Veltar ships and their captains. She began to notice small things that bothered her. When Veltar officers spoke to Marcus, some of them were rude. They called his weapons toys and his ships scrap metal. They made jokes about human intelligence when they thought he could not hear. Marcus never responded to these insults. He just continued working. This made the Veltar officers act even worse. They thought his silence meant he was stupid or weak. But Zaritha watched his eyes. They were always alert, always thinking. When the Veltar officers talked, he listened carefully. When they showed him fleet formations, he asked intelligent questions. When they explained their battle tactics, he nodded like he understood completely. On the 5th day of travel, pirates attacked their convoy. The alarm bells rang through the ship. Zaritha ran to the command bridge with the other officers. Through the main window, she could see 6 pirate ships moving toward them. They were fast and heavily armed. "Battle stations," called Admiral Mordak, the Veltar fleet commander. "Activate shields. Charge the plasma cannons." The Veltar ships moved into their standard battle formation. It was a formation they had used for 100 years. Each ship had its place, and each captain knew exactly what to do. The pirates opened fire. Their weapons were old but powerful. The first blast hit the royal ship's shields and made the whole deck shake. "Return fire," Admiral Mordak ordered. The Veltar plasma cannons shot bright beams of energy at the pirate ships. The beams were beautiful to watch, like colored lightning in space. But Zaritha noticed something wrong. The pirates seemed to know exactly where the beams would go. They moved their ships just enough to avoid most of the damage. "How are they doing that?" she asked. "Veltar tactics are well known," Marcus said quietly behind her. She had not heard him come onto the bridge. "Pirates have fought your people many times. They know how you move and where you aim." Admiral Mordak turned around angrily. "Human, this is not your battle. Your ships are too slow to help." "With respect, Admiral," Marcus said, "my ships are exactly where they need to be." Zaritha looked at the tactical display. The human ships had not moved into the standard formation. Instead, they spread out in a pattern she did not recognize. The pirates attacked again. This time, they concentrated their fire on one Veltar ship. The beautiful plasma shields flickered and started to fail. "Ship Elegant Star is in trouble," an officer called out. "Their shields are at 20%. "Move Ship Bright Hope to cover them," Admiral Mordak ordered. But as the Bright Hope moved to help, the pirates changed direction. They had tricked the Veltar into breaking their formation. Now they could attack the royal ship directly. "All ships, emergency formation 7, the Admiral called. "Wait," Marcus said. He spoke into his own communication device in human language. Zaritha could not understand the words, but his voice was calm and clear. Suddenly, the human ships moved. They did not follow any formation that Zaritha recognized. Each ship went in a different direction, like they were running away from the battle. "Cowards," Admiral Mordak said. "I knew humans would flee when the fighting started." But Zaritha watched the tactical display more carefully. The human ships were not running away. They were surrounding the pirates. The pirate leader must have noticed this too. He tried to escape, but everywhere he turned there was a human ship waiting. The pirates had been hunting the Veltar convoy, but now they were the ones being hunted. The human ships opened fire. Their weapons were different from Veltar plasma cannons. They shot solid metal bullets and explosive missiles. The weapons looked primitive, but they worked. The pirate ship's shields did not stop the metal bullets very well. In less than 10 minutes, all 6 pirate ships were destroyed or surrendering. "How did they do that?" Zaritha asked. Marcus Kane looked at the tactical display. "Pirates expect enemies to fight like the Veltar. They expect formation attacks and plasma weapons. They do not expect ships to spread out and surround them." "But your weapons are so simple," Zaritha said. "Metal bullets against energy shields." "Simple weapons work," Marcus said. "Complex weapons sometimes fail. Metal bullets always fly straight." Admiral Mordak looked embarrassed. His advanced fleet had been losing to pirates. The primitive humans had won the battle in minutes. "Thank you for your assistance," the Admiral said stiffly. "No assistance needed," Marcus replied. "We are allies now. Your enemies are our enemies." That night, Zaritha could not stop thinking about the battle. Everything she knew about human weakness had been wrong. Their ships were not slower. They were positioned better. Their weapons were not primitive. They were reliable. Their tactics were not simple. They were effective. She began to wonder what else she had been wrong about. When she looked out her cabin window at the human ships traveling beside them, she felt something new. Not disgust or fear, but curiosity. Maybe there was more to these humans than anyone had told her. The military base on Kepler 442b looked like a nightmare. The planet's red dirt was covered with trenches, weapon platforms, and temporary buildings. Smoke rose from a dozen different fires. In the distance, Zaritha could see the black scars where Hive bioships had crashed into the ground. She stood beside Marcus Kane on a hill overlooking the base. Around them, thousands of soldiers from both species worked to prepare defenses. This was the front line of the war against the Hive. "It does not look like much," Zaritha said. She was trying not to breathe through her nose. The planet smelled like burned metal and something else she could not identify. War is never beautiful, Marcus replied. He studied the base through his binoculars. But it is functional. Below them, Zaritha watched Veltar engineers setting up their advanced weapon systems. The plasma cannons were works of art, with smooth curves and glowing crystal cores. Everything was clean and elegant, just like Veltar technology should be. Next to the Veltar equipment, human soldiers were building their own defenses. Their weapons looked terrible. They were made of rough metal and painted in dull colors. The humans welded pieces together with bright sparks flying everywhere. They seemed to be building their equipment from spare parts. Your weapons look improvised, Zaritha said carefully. Marcus lowered his binoculars. They are. We build what we need from what we have. A Veltar officer approached them. It was Commander Selthara, one of her father's best strategists. He bowed to Zaritha, then looked at Marcus with barely hidden dislike. Princess, Selthara said, I have prepared a full briefing on our defensive positions. Perhaps the human would prefer to inspect his own crude fortifications while we discuss real military strategy. Zaritha felt embarrassed by the officer's rudeness, but Marcus just nodded. I will check on my soldiers, he said to her. Meet me at the command bunker in 2 hours. After Marcus left, Commander Selthara began his briefing. He showed Zaritha detailed holomaps of their positions. Every weapon placement was calculated by computer. Every field of fire was optimized for maximum efficiency. Every possible hive attack route had been analyzed. Our plasma cannons can destroy a hive bioship at 40 kilometers, Selthara explained proudly. Our particle shields will stop any organic weapon they might use. Our sensor array can detect them long before they reach effective range. It all sounded very impressive, but Zaritha remembered the pirate attack. The beautiful plasma cannons had not been very effective then. What do you think of the human preparations? She asked. Selthara made a disgusted sound. Primitive. They place their weapons randomly. They build trenches where computers say trenches should not go. They use explosive chemicals instead of energy weapons. It is like watching savages prepare for war. But Zaritha wanted to see for herself. She left Selthara and walked down to where the human soldiers were working. What she saw surprised her. The humans were not working randomly at all. Small groups of soldiers moved around the base, each group doing a specific job. Some dug trenches, others set up communication equipment, others prepared ammunition, but they did not follow a single plan made by computers. Instead, each group seemed to make decisions based on what they saw around them. When they found a good place for a weapon, they put it there. When they saw a weak spot in the defenses, they fixed it. Zaritha watched one group of human engineers working on a broken vehicle. The vehicle's main engine was destroyed, but instead of scrapping it, they removed the engine completely. Then they mounted a large gun where the engine had been. In 2 hours, they had turned a broken transport into a mobile weapon platform. Impressive, is it not? Zaritha turned around. Marcus had returned from inspecting his troops. They are very creative, she said. Veltar engineering is more advanced than ours, Marcus said. But when Veltar equipment breaks, you need special parts and trained technicians to fix it. When human equipment breaks, any soldier with basic tools can make repairs. They walked together toward the command bunker. Along the way, Zaritha saw more examples of human adaptability. Human soldiers had taken Veltar shield generators and mounted them on wheeled platforms, making them mobile. They had connected human communication equipment to Veltar sensors, creating a hybrid system that worked better than either one alone. Your soldiers seem to understand our technology quite well, Zaritha said. We study everything, Marcus replied. Human military doctrine is based on learning from others and adapting what works. In the command bunker, Marcus spread out star charts and battle reports on a table. Zaritha expected him to ask for her help, but instead, he began explaining what he had learned. I have been studying Veltar tactical manuals, he said. Your people fight with great skill and honor. But there are some problems. Zaritha felt defensive. What problems? Marcus pointed to the star charts. Veltar formations are very disciplined. Every ship has a specific position. Every captain knows exactly what to do. This works well when fighting other organized fleets. Of course it does. That is how proper warfare is conducted. But the Hive does not fight like an organized fleet, Marcus continued. They attack in swarms. They do not follow patterns that computers can predict. When they hit your formations, your ships cannot adapt quickly enough. He showed her battle recordings from recent Veltar defeats. Zaritha watched her people's beautiful ships moving in perfect formations, but when the chaotic hive swarms hit them, the formations fell apart. Ships that were trained to work together could not handle enemies that did not follow any rules. "Your people are brave warriors," Marcus said, "but you have been fighting the same way for so long that you cannot change when you need to." "And humans can change?" Zaritha asked. "We have to. Earth is a dangerous planet. Humans who could not adapt quickly died out long ago. Only the flexible ones survived." Suddenly, alarms began ringing throughout the base. A voice spoke over the communication system. "Hive bioships detected. Incoming attack. All personnel to battle." "Stations!" Zaritha ran outside with Marcus. In the sky above them, she could see dark shapes falling through the atmosphere like deadly rain. The Hive had found them. "How many?" Marcus asked an officer. "Sensors show 47 bioships," the officer replied. "They will reach the surface in 12 minutes. Commander Selthara's voice came over the radio. "All units, assume defensive formation. Alpha 7, plasma cannons, target the lead ships. Particle shields to maximum power." The Veltar forces moved into their planned positions with perfect discipline. Every soldier knew exactly where to go. The plasma cannons hummed with power as they prepared to fire. But Marcus was speaking into his own radio in rapid human language. Zaritha watched the human forces spread out across the base in what looked like complete chaos. Soldiers ran in different directions. Vehicles moved to positions that were not marked on any map. "What are they doing?" she asked. "Getting ready," Marcus said. The Hive bioships hit the ground like meteors. Each one was the size of a building, covered in thick armor that looked like insect shells. They split open and began releasing smaller creatures that looked like a nightmare combination of spider and snake. The Veltar plasma cannons opened fire. The beautiful energy beams cut through the air and hit the bioships. Some of the ships exploded in spectacular bursts of light, but others kept coming. The Hive creatures moved fast. They did not attack in straight lines like normal armies. They swarmed around obstacles, climbed walls, and appeared from unexpected directions. Zaritha watched the Veltar formations start to break down. The soldiers were brave, but they had been trained to fight enemies that followed rules. The Hive followed no rules. "We need to retreat to secondary positions," Commander Selthara called over the radio, but Marcus was already moving. He grabbed a weapon and started running toward the fighting. "Princess, stay in the bunker," he called back to her. Zaritha wanted to stay safe, but she also wanted to see what the humans would do. She followed Marcus, staying close behind him. What she saw made her understand everything. The human soldiers did not fight in formations. Each small group worked independently, but somehow they all worked together. When Hive creatures attacked from one direction, human soldiers would pop up from somewhere else and shoot them from behind. When the creatures tried to surround them, the humans would disappear into trenches and tunnels, then reappear somewhere completely different. The humans used their crude weapons in ways Zaritha had never seen. They threw explosive charges into groups of enemies. They used flamethrowers to block narrow passages. They even used their damaged vehicles as bombs, driving them straight into the largest bioships. In 2 hours, the attack was over. All 47 bioships were destroyed. The Veltar had fought bravely, but it was the humans who had won the battle. That night, as they counted their casualties, Zaritha realized something that shocked her. Everything she had been taught about humans was not just wrong, it was backwards. They were not primitive. They were adaptable. They were not savage. They were creative. They were not weak. They were the strongest warriors she had ever seen. And Marcus Kane was not a barbarian she had been forced to marry. He was the man who had just saved all their lives. 2 weeks later, Princess Zaritha stood in the command center of the combined fleet. Through the great windows, she could see hundreds of ships from both species floating in space around them. This was the largest military force ever assembled against the Hive. The enemy was coming to Arcturus Station, the most important shipyard in Veltar space. If the Hive captured it, they would be able to build their own bioships using Veltar technology. The Empire would fall within months. Final battle preparations complete, Admiral Mordak announced. All ships report ready for combat. Beside him, Marcus Kane studied the tactical displays. In the past weeks, Zaretha had watched him work with the Veltar commanders. At first, they had ignored his suggestions, but after the victory on Kepler 442b, they had started to listen. "The hive will come in 3 waves," Marcus said, pointing to the star charts. "First, they will send their fastest bioships to test our defenses. Then the main swarm will attack our strongest positions. Finally, they will send their largest ships to break through whatever is left." "And how do you suggest we respond?" Admiral Mordak asked. His voice was respectful now, not mocking like it had been before. "We let them think they are winning," Marcus replied. Zaretha looked at him in surprise. "Let them win." "Let them think they are winning," Marcus corrected. "We make our first defense line look stronger than it really is. When they break through, they will think the battle is almost over. That is when we hit them with everything we have." It was a dangerous plan. If it failed, the entire fleet would be destroyed. But Zaretha had seen Marcus fight now. She trusted his judgment. "I want to be part of this battle," she said suddenly. Both men looked at her in surprise. "Princess," Admiral Mordak said, "your place is here in the command ship, where you will be safe." "No," Zaretha said firmly. "I am a member of this alliance. I should fight for it." Marcus nodded slowly. "She can come with my boarding team. If we need to board a hive bioship, an extra fighter would be helpful." "Absolutely not," Admiral Mordak protested. "The princess cannot be put in such danger." "The princess can speak for herself," Zaretha said. "And I say, I will fight." She had been thinking about this for days. All her life she had been protected and pampered. She had given orders but never faced real danger. If she was going to lead the alliance between their peoples, she needed to prove herself in battle. Marcus looked at her carefully. Boarding a bioship is not like watching a battle from the command deck. It is close combat against creatures that want to tear you apart. Are you sure you can handle that? I will find out, Zaretha said. 2 hours later, the hive arrived. Zaretha had never seen so many enemy ships in one place. They filled space like a dark cloud, thousands of bioships of every size. The smallest were like fighters, quick and deadly. The medium ones were like cruisers, heavily armed and armored. The largest were like moving cities covered with weapon towers and fighter bays. "First wave incoming," an officer called out. 200 fast attack ships. The Veltar ships moved into formation exactly as planned. They looked strong and confident, but Zaretha knew this was just for show. Marcus had positioned the real defenses elsewhere. The fast hive ships attacked like angry insects. They swarmed around the Veltar formation, shooting bioplasma and launching living missiles. The beautiful Veltar ships fought back with their plasma cannons, creating a light show that could be seen across the solar system. But slowly, the Veltar line began to fall back. Ships took damage and retreated. The formation started to break apart. "They are breaking through our defenses," Admiral Mordak announced loudly, making sure the hive could intercept his communications. The second wave of hive ships rushed forward, eager to finish off what they thought was a defeated enemy. But as they entered the battle zone, hidden human ships appeared from behind asteroids and space stations. The crude human weapons opened fire from every direction. The second wave found itself trapped in a crossfire. Hive bioships that had been attacking the Veltar suddenly had to defend themselves against human missiles and railguns. Confusion spread through their ranks. "Now," Marcus commanded, "all ships full attack." The Veltar ships that had been retreating suddenly turned around and charged back into battle. Their plasma cannons, fully recharged, cut through the surprised hive forces like swords through cloth. In 30 minutes, 2/3 of the hive fleet was destroyed. But the battle was not over. The largest bioships, the ones that looked like cities, began moving toward the station. These ships were too big to destroy easily. They would have to be stopped from the inside. "Boarding teams, prepare for insertion," Marcus announced. Zaretha put on the human combat armor that Marcus had given her. It was not as elegant as Veltar equipment, but it was practical. She checked her weapon, a human assault rifle loaded with explosive rounds. "Stay close to me," Marcus said as they boarded the assault shuttle. "Inside a bioship, it is easy to get lost. The corridors are not built for beings like us." The shuttle flew toward the nearest city ship, dodging streams of bioplasma and living projectiles. Through the windows, Zaretha could see the ship's surface moving like skin. It was not built, it was grown. They landed in a docking bay that looked more like a mouth than a hangar. The walls were wet and covered with something that might have been blood or digestive fluid. The air smelled terrible. "This way," Marcus said, reading his scanner. "The control center should be 3 levels down." They moved through corridors that twisted and curved like the inside of some giant creature. The walls pulsed with a slow rhythm like a heartbeat. Strange sounds echoed from the darkness ahead. Suddenly, a hive warrior appeared around a corner. Zaretha had seen pictures of these creatures, but seeing one in person was much worse. It stood 3 meters tall with 6 legs and 4 arms. Its skin was black and shiny like armor. Its face was mostly mouth, filled with teeth as long as her fingers. The creature screamed and charged at them. Marcus fired his weapon 3 times. The explosive rounds tore holes in the creature's armor, but it kept coming. Zaretha raised her own gun and fired. Her shots were not as accurate as Marcus's, but they hit the creature's legs and slowed it down. Marcus rolled to the side and fired again. This time, his shot hit the creature's head and it collapsed. "Good shooting," he said to Zaretha. They continued deeper into the bioship. More warriors appeared, but now Zaretha was ready for them. She learned to aim for the joints between armor plates. She learned to move quickly and stay behind cover. She learned to trust Marcus to watch her back while she watched his. Fighting beside him, she began to understand something important. Marcus was not just a good warrior, he was a good leader. When she made mistakes, he corrected them without making her feel stupid. When she did well, he acknowledged it without making it sound like a surprise. He treated her like a real partner, not like a princess who needed protection. They reached the control center after an hour of fighting. It was a huge chamber with walls covered in what looked like nerve tissue. In the center, a massive brain-like structure pulsed with bioelectric energy. "That is the ship's central nervous system," Marcus said. "Destroy it, and the ship dies." But as they approached the brain, more hive warriors poured into the chamber, too many to fight. "Cover me!" Marcus shouted. He ran toward the brain with an explosive charge in his hands. Zaretha fired as fast as she could, trying to keep the warriors away from him. But there were so many of them. One got past her shots and leaped at Marcus from behind. Without thinking, Zaretha threw herself between the creature and Marcus. The warrior's claws raked across her armor, leaving deep scratches. Pain shot through her side, but she kept firing. Marcus planted the charge and ran back to her. 30 seconds, he yelled. "We need to get out of here." They ran through the corridors as fast as they could. Behind them, they could hear the hive warriors giving chase. The walls around them shuddered as the explosive charge counted down. They reached their shuttle just as the charge exploded. The bioship's death scream was unlike anything Zaretha had ever heard. The great creature ship twisted and convulsed, then went still. In the shuttle, Marcus checked her wounds. "You saved my life back there," he said quietly. "You have saved mine several times," Zaretha replied. "I thought it was time to return the favor." Marcus looked at her with something new in his eyes. "You fought well. Your people would be proud." As they flew back to the fleet, Zaretha realized that something had changed inside her. She no longer thought of Marcus as the savage barbarian she had been forced to marry. She thought of him as the warrior who had trusted her enough to fight beside him. And when she looked at him now, she did not feel disgust or fear. She felt something much more dangerous. She felt respect, and maybe something even stronger than that. The battle was won, but Zaretha's real war, the war against her own prejudices, had just reached its turning point. 1 month after the great victory at Arcturus Station, Princess Zaretha stood in the gardens of the Crystal Palace. But everything looked different now. The same beautiful towers still reached toward the sky, but they no longer seemed like symbols of superiority. They were just buildings. Impressive, but not magical. The victory celebration had lasted for 3 days. Representatives from dozens of worlds had come to honor the alliance that defeated the Hive. But now the guests were gone, and only the important work remained. "The new Joint Military Academy will be built on Kepler 442b, Marcus said, reading from a datapad as he walked beside her. "Human and Veltar officers will train together. Your father thinks it is a good idea." Zaretha smiled. 6 months ago, he would have laughed at the suggestion that Veltar officers needed to learn anything from humans. 6 months ago, I would have thought Veltar plasma technology was just pretty lights, Marcus replied. Amazing how much we can learn when we stop assuming we know everything. They had spent the past month working together to plan the future of the Alliance. It was not just about military cooperation anymore. Human engineers were learning Veltar energy manipulation techniques. Veltar scientists were studying human adaptive manufacturing. Artists from both species were creating new forms of expression that combine their different traditions. Most surprisingly, many Veltar nobles had started asking for human military advisors. They had seen how effective human tactics could be, and they wanted to learn. "I have a confession to make," Zaritha said as they sat down by a fountain made of singing crystal. "What kind of confession?" "When I first met you, I thought you were disgusting." Marcus laughed. "I know. You made that very clear. I thought you were primitive and savage and barely intelligent," she continued. "I could not understand how my father could ask me to marry someone so far beneath me." "And now?" Marcus asked gently. Zaritha looked at him carefully. Over the past months, she had learned to see him clearly. His face was not ugly. It was strong. His scars were not signs of crudeness. They were marks of courage. His direct manner was not rudeness. It was honesty. "Now, I think I was the primitive one," she said. "I was so busy looking at the surface that I could not see what was underneath." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "I had my own prejudices," he admitted. "I thought the Veltar were weak. All your beautiful cities and elegant technology seemed like decorations to hide the fact that you could not really fight. What changed your mind?" "You did," Marcus said simply. "When you chose to fight beside me instead of staying safe in the command ship, when you threw yourself between me and that hive warrior, that was not the action of a weak person." Zaritha felt warmth spread through her chest. "So we have both learned something." "Yes, we have learned that strength comes in many forms. Your people have intellectual strength and cultural depth. My people have adaptability and resilience. Together, we are stronger than either of us could be alone." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the crystal fountain's music. Zaritha thought about how much had changed. The marriage that had begun as a political arrangement had become something real, not because of romantic speeches or grand gestures, but because they had faced danger together and learned to trust each other. "There is something else I need to tell you," Marcus said. "What?" "Your father has asked me to take command of the new combined fleet. All human and Veltar ships would be under my authority." Zaritha felt a surge of pride. "He is acknowledging that you are the better military commander. He is acknowledging that the old ways of thinking about warfare need to change," Marcus corrected. "But I told him I would only accept if you were my co-commander. The fleet needs both human adaptability and Veltar strategic thinking. You want me as your partner? Not just your wife, but your actual partner in commanding the fleet?" "I have seen you fight," Marcus said. "I have seen you think. I have seen you learn and grow and adapt. Yes, I want you as my partner in every sense." Zaritha felt something she had never experienced before. It was not the cold satisfaction of political power or the shallow pleasure of luxury. It was the deep happiness that came from being truly valued for who she was, not what she represented. "I accept," she said. That evening, they stood together in the great throne room where they had first met. But instead of a wedding ceremony, this was a celebration of the new alliance treaty. Representatives from both species filled the hall, no longer divided by prejudice, but united by shared purpose. Emperor Kael'var rose to address the gathering. "Today we formalize an alliance that has already proved its worth in battle. But this alliance is more than just a military agreement. It is a recognition that no single species has all the answers. We are stronger when we learn from each other." The crowd applauded, but Zaritha had noticed something important. The applause came from both humans and Veltar equally. 6 months ago, many of her people would have been too proud to cheer for a partnership with primitives. When her father finished speaking, Marcus stepped forward. "The Hive taught us an important lesson," he said. "They were dangerous because they could not be defeated by any single species fighting alone. But they were defeated when different species worked together, each contributing their unique strengths." He looked at Zaritha. "This alliance will face new challenges in the future, but we have learned the most important lesson of all. Diversity is not weakness, it is strength." The crowd cheered again, louder this time. Later that night, Zaretha and Marcus walked alone through the palace corridors. Tomorrow, they would leave for the fleet base where they would begin their new duties. They would face new enemies and new challenges, but they would face them together. "Do you ever regret it?" Zaretha asked. "The marriage arrangement? Being forced into this alliance." Marcus stopped walking and turned to face her. "I was not forced into anything. I chose to accept the marriage proposal. But you could have negotiated different terms. You could have demanded better conditions for your people." "I could have," Marcus agreed, "but I had read reports about you before I came here. I knew you were intelligent and capable. I thought that if I could convince you to see humans clearly, you might become a powerful ally." "You planned this? You planned to change my mind about humans?" "I planned to give you the chance to change your mind," Marcus said. "The rest was up to you." Zaretha shook her head in amazement. "You are much more devious than anyone realizes." "I prefer to think of it as strategic thinking," Marcus replied with a smile. They continued walking, but Zaretha's mind was racing. Marcus had not just accepted an unwanted marriage to save his people. He had seen an opportunity to build something larger and more important than a simple military alliance. He had bet everything on the possibility that she could grow beyond her prejudices. And she had. "Marcus," she said softly. "Yes?" "I love you." The words surprised her as much as they surprised him. She had not planned to say them, but as they stood there in the crystal corridors of her childhood home, she realized they were true. Not because he was handsome or charming, or because their marriage was politically useful. She loved him because he had seen potential in her that she had not seen in herself. He had trusted her to become better than she was. Marcus smiled, and for the first time since she had known him, his serious expression completely disappeared. "I love you too," he said. "Not the princess I was supposed to marry, but the warrior I fought beside, the leader I respect, the woman who saved my life." As they kissed in the hallway, where she had once shuddered at the sight of him, Zaretha realized that this was what real strength looked like. Not the power to dominate others, but the courage to change yourself. Not the ability to win battles alone, but the wisdom to find partners who made you stronger. The Hive War was over, but the alliance between humans and Veltar was just beginning. And at its heart was a marriage that had started with mutual disgust and grown into mutual respect, trust, and love. 6 months ago, Princess Zaretha had looked at Marcus Kane and seen everything she despised about humanity. Now, when she looked at him, she saw the future, a future where different species could not just coexist, but could genuinely flourish together. The barbarian she had been forced to marry had become the partner she chose to stand with, and together they would build something greater than either of their species could have achieved alone. The alliance would face many tests in the years to come, but it would endure, because it was built not on fear or necessity, but on the most powerful force in the galaxy, the willingness to see strength where you once saw only weakness, and to find love where you once saw only difference.